Good afternoon and welcome to Legal Matters. My name is Tulani Mututa. I am your host and I am coming to you live and direct from number 1 Union Avenue, which is the Heart and Soul Studio broadcasting station. Today I am joined in the studio by two phenomenal guests as always on Legal Matters. And welcome. Please just introduce yourself to the guests. Miss Makoni, please go first.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Tulani. I am Tariro Makoni. I am a legal practitioner, a human rights lawyer, and a child rights advocate.
Okay, that's a lengthy but really straight to the point introduction. Well, welcome to Legal Matters, Miss Makoni. Please just explain to us what it is that you do on a daily basis as your day-to-day job.
On a day-to-day job, I am actually a prosecutor.
Okay. Yes, and by public prosecutor, what do you mean? Because most people may not even know that there's such a thing called a prosecutor.
Okay, as a prosecutor, I am a legal representative of the state, ensuring that justice is served. I help fight crime, especially crimes against the girl child.
Okay.
Yes, that is what I enjoy doing. I enjoy my job very well because it is something that I've always wanted to do.
Okay.
So a prosecutor in Shona Tinoti Machuchusi.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's really informative, and for our listeners who didn't know that, that's what Legal Matters is all about. You're already getting the awareness as well of public prosecutors. Today we're also joined in the studio by Miss Caroline Taponeswa. Please introduce yourself to our listeners.
Okay, thank you, Tulani. Good afternoon. I'm Caroline Taponeswa, and I'm an author, and I've authored my first book titled The Grace of a Wife.
Okay.
And yeah.
And I would just like to ask as a follow-through question,
Okay.
What exactly do you have to do to become an author? How exactly does it happen? Because coming up in high school, coming up in law school as well, I always thought that people who write books have a brilliant mindset because they can transform what they are thinking into writing. So how exactly does one become an author?
Well, firstly, it's just about passion. You should be somebody who's just passionate about writing stuff, writing diaries, like that. That is how it starts.
Okay.
And should be somebody who is aware of the environment, aware of the society and what is just happening around you.
Okay.
And if you're someone who easily picks up that, you can become a writer.
Okay, and that's amazing. I just hope our listeners are also getting to understand and just to take from that, because it's ideally the world we now live in. You have to be observant, you have to be vigilant, you have to know what's going on. Okay, so welcome to Legal Matters. Today we are going to be talking about a rather touchy or sentimental topic, but then we are doing a series on the issue of child marriages on Legal Matters. So this today is the first episode in that series, and the topic we're having today is called Dzoka Uyamwe, the crime of child marriages in Zimbabwe. So let's just get to decipher the topic. Let's just get to interpret it so that people who are listening can understand what exactly we mean by the crime of a child marriage. And just to ask you right now in the studio, what exactly comes to your mind when you hear that? Dzoka Uyamwe, the crime of child marriages in Zimbabwe. Miss Makoni, I can see you're keen to take that.
Thank you, Tulani. When I hear about Dzoka Uyamwe, in my mind, I'm seeing a child who's crying, a child who's burdened, whose shoulders are carrying a huge burden of having to be a bride at a tender age, a child who should be in school, a child who is bruised, and a child who has no one to protect, a child who is looking to the state to protect, but the state is turning their back on the child. A child who needs to be back at school and to be empowered, a child who still needs to be with the parents, a child who still, by Dzoka Uyamwe, you are saying a child should come back and breastfeed.
Yes.
So we are saying this child is still a juvenile.
Yes.
And this child should still be breastfeeding, and this child should not be burdened by being a child bride.
Those are the exact sentiments, which is why I was saying from the start that today's show is a bit different, because it's something that really goes to the core of our humanity. It's something that goes along the lines of human rights. It's something that goes along the lines of culture. So maybe to just backtrack on that a bit, Miss Caroline, what would you say is a marriage as an author? Or how exactly would you define a knowledge from a marriage from what you see around? And where exactly you just think this whole institution of marriage comes from?
Okay, firstly, I think we, as humans, I know that some of us don't really believe that God exists.
Okay.
But to people who believe that God exists,
yes,
I believe
yes,
marriage is something that was started by God.
Okay.
It was founded by God, because God is the creator of humans.
Okay.
And then he started the...
But you know what? Let me just stop you right there, Mr. Taponeswa, because yes, you are right. God did create the Institute of Marriage, but then when we are going down to the facts on the ground, particularly in a context of Zimbabwe, where in our culture you might find that in your generational line, you may actually have ancestors who were married as children because it was part of our culture. Yes, so what exactly would be your take on that? Miss Makoni, I can see you're eager again.
Thank you, Talani. In respect of our culture, indeed, I can confirm that back then,
yes,
it was very normal for children to get married before they turned the age of 18, which
yes,
is the legal age of majority, according to the legal age of majority.
Okay, in Zimbabwe.
Act.
And also,
Yes.
to just stop you there on a legal point, so are we saying this institution of marriage is something according to the modern times or to the law can only be done by someone who's 18 years or older?
Yes.
Okay.
Legally.
Yes.
According to our 2013 constitution.
Okay.
Only children who have attained the age of 18 are allowed to
marry. Yes.
Marry. Yes. This is in terms of Section 78 of the Constitution.
Okay.
And Section 81 of the Constitution goes on to define what a child is.
Okay.
And a child is someone who has not yet attained the age of 18.
The age of 18,
so
yes.
Any person, be it a girl or a boy, they are not allowed, as per our Constitution, to be married. We also have the Marriages Act of 1963.
Okay.
Does
that still apply? Because 1963 just seems like a long time ago for me.
Exactly. 1963 is indeed a long time ago.
Yes.
And I was going to touch on it about the need to actually align our laws with the Constitution.
Okay.
The Marriages Act needs to be aligned with the Constitution.
Okay.
Because you find that in the Marriages Act, it says that male children can be married at 18, but it says the female child can be married at 16.
Okay.
So you see there is a discrepancy.
Yes. No, I totally agree with that, and I understand where it's coming from in terms of the law, which is why exactly Legal Matters is having this initiative, this series of episodes that are focused on child marriages. So Miss Makoni, thank you very much for that insightful contribution, but let's just reserve it for the Legal Wise segment when we'll get to talking about the law of child marriages. I'm sure Mr. Taponeswa, you can see that Miss Makoni is ready to give all the information about this issue of child marriages. Okay, so now that people are now on the same page with us with regards to the topic we want to talk about today, we on Legal Matters usually have 3 exciting segments. And the first one is called Law Watch, the second one Legal Wise, and the third one Law in Action. So in this segment, we're going to be talking about the issue of child marriages, canvassing also the current affairs topics such as the recent death of a child who was in a child marriage when she was giving birth. And I would also like to find out from Miss Makoni, as a prosecutor, what exactly would constitute to be the crime of child marriage, by defining maybe the essential elements or how exactly it's committed, so that people out there who are listening to Legal Matters right now can understand the mechanics of the law, but in a simple way. And then after that, we'll get to the law in action, where we'll just get to talking about maybe solutions that we can proffer or initiatives that we can do to communicate about the issue of child marriage to ensure that there is change. Because undoubtedly we cannot completely eradicate it, But then we have to take a stance, because now there's been loss of life, there's been mass and gross violations of human rights owing from these child marriages, which are just the results of children being subjected to the harsh conditions which they cannot bear at a young age. So we'll just take a short break, and we'll be right back on Legal Matters and get into the interesting topic we have on the Law Watch segment. Stay tuned. Good afternoon and welcome to Legal Matters. We are back from the short break we just took, as we are now jumping into the issue we have at hand, Dzoka Uyamwe, the crime of child marriages in Zimbabwe. So we were talking about an interesting current affairs issue that recently happened about the girl who allegedly passed on whilst she was giving birth. What exactly was the issue with regards to that? Did anyone get to understand the facts as they were? Miss Makoni, probably because it was in your realm of the law, what exactly was the fact with regards to this issue?
Well, Tulani, I would like to start by saying it is very disheartening to learn that things like that are still happening in our society. After all the laws, the education, the policies, we still find ourselves in such situations.
Yes.
And it's what's even said is that there are a lot of cases that are going on unreported. Memory Machaya one it's only fortunate that people got to learn of it.
Okay.
But things like this, it's sad to actually note that they are still happening.
Yes, and Mr. Taponeswa, like you were saying, just observing from the recent fact that we're talking about, that this issue of child marriages is not new. So why exactly is all the clamoring, or why exactly is the public now crying about these child marriages? What exactly has changed about it?
Well, I think, from back in the days, it was normal. Like, it was part of life. It was
because of the culture.
Yes, because of the culture.
All right.
It was our way of life. But now things have changed.
Yes.
I think people are now seeing that there are a lot of disadvantages that comes with one marrying whilst they're still young.
Yes.
They are, especially a young girl, they are disadvantaged from going to school, pursuing school.
Yes, and also considering the fact that now there's a whole body of legislation in Africa that tries to protect children's rights, which also cascades into the domestic legislation or the laws of Zimbabwe, where children actually have rights. So, Miss Makoni, as a result of these child marriages, what exactly is going on with regards to the violation of human rights? Because, say for instance, in the case of Machaya, the girl we're talking about, what exactly could she have done to try and alleviate the situation that she was in?
Okay,
yes.
She could have these days there are a lot of organizations that are helping children in such situations.
All right.
Children like Memory, who are caught up in child marriages, which I believe most of the times they're imposed.
Okay. And such organizations, just from the top of my head, one which we closely work with on legal matters is Legal Resource Foundation. So of course, these steps are there. But Miss Caroline, what exactly would be the reason that would stop children from taking up these initiatives? Because we're saying she, the girl child, has a guardian, and that guardian is charged with protecting her. So what about in instances where children are forced into these child marriages? Who is to blame with regards to that?
Well, firstly, it's the parents. The parents of the child.
Yes.
But I then realized that the parents allowed that to happen because it happened to them also.
Okay.
So they don't see any problem with marrying off a child whilst they are young.
Okay.
Because maybe it happened to them. They also got married maybe when they were still 18.
So now are we saying it's okay to lose the lives of girls or have their rights violated in these child marriages because of their parents' history or because of the past? Because I know that culture is something that cannot be divorced from the law, and Miss Makoni would agree. But in as much as it cannot be divorced, is there a way that someone who is living, say, in Harare, can be judged according to those customary laws, as opposed to someone who's in Benga? I'm sure that changes the situation with regards to the aspect of culture. Miss Makoni, what would you say?
I think the law should be applied uniformly to the people in Binga or the people in Harare.
Okay.
We have the ACRC.
Okay.
The African Charter on the rights and welfare of the child.
Okay.
It talks about abolishing harmful cultural practices and traditions.
Okay, so but by saying harmful cultural practices and traditions, we're saying child marriages are one of them.
Child marriages are definitely one of them.
And the second one would be, just so that people also get to understand the issue of these harmful cultural practices.
Harmful cultural practices can be genital mutilation.
Okay.
We have we call it Mochishona Chiramu. It's also a harmful cultural practice.
Okay.
I mentioned female genital mutilation.
Yes.
There are a lot of practices that
have been done,
especially in East Africa. How some of the traditions that have been done, like the burning of the breast and things like that.
Yes.
Those are the harmful cultural practices that
need to be stopped.
Yes.
Okay.
And because Zimbabwe, we ratified the African Charter on the rights and welfare of the children.
And by ratified, you mean that it's signed and it's accepting those terms?
Yes, we signed and we are accepting those terms to be part of our law.
Okay.
By ratification, I mean the law was also domesticated. It is now also part of our domestic laws.
Okay.
So in
Ms.
that
Makoni is speaking like an expert there.
So in that regard, culture should not stand in the way if a child is being violated. Not only the female child, even though the female child is the one who is mostly exposed.
Yes.
But culture should not stand in the way if there are human rights violations.
Those human rights should supersede culture.
Human rights should supersede culture.
Miss Caroline, do you agree with that? Because naturally, just being an argumentative person, I feel like there are a bit of loopholes there. But then, what do you think?
Well, it's true. Yes, like we should heed to the law.
Okay.
But I think we also need to understand where the people are coming from.
Yes.
And then approach them.
And also, even on an international level of the law, the reason why the African international conventions are called people's rights, because people are something that comes from a culture and something from a way of life.
Yes.
So they become a people as a result of that. So if it is their way of life, Mr. Taponeswa, do you think it's justified to say, no, you cannot do this?
Well, it's not justified, but I think there is need to approach them.
Okay.
Not like to just like bombard them with the law and say, you should not do this, you should not do this.
Yes.
But I think you should actually take time and then sit with them and then understand why they do things that way, why they allow children to be married off whilst they're young.
Okay.
And then hold conversations with them. Maybe go family by family and then understand why they do things that way.
Okay.
And then maybe enlighten them and show them the bad side of doing that.
Okay. And do you per se think that this whole issue of child marriages can come to a point when we can say Miss Makoni over there does not have to prosecute anyone for that crime? Would you say we can come to that point? Or it's something that's just going to be there because it was also there since time immemorial?
I think it will always be a part of us.
Okay.
But maybe only the cases that...
Miss Makoni looks like she does not agree. Do you think you can send enough people to jail for these child marriages, enough to say that it is now a deterred crime, or people are no longer committing it as a crime because of the harsh penalties? So maybe you can walk us a bit through what exactly constitutes the criminal elements of child marriages, and why exactly there's that need now for prosecution.
Well, let me start by saying, actually, in terms of our law in Zimbabwe, we do not have a specific provision that outlaws child marriages except for the constitution.
Okay.
I understand we have the child marriages bill.
Yes.
There is an amendment that was done in 2017 that is actually trying to align the laws and specifically prohibit child marriages.
Okay.
Because now we are basing with the constitution and with the 26th constitutional court landmark ruling of the Mudzuri and Sopodzi case.
Okay. And what was really the position in the Mudzuri and Topodzi case? Was it a constitutional case? Maybe just for the sake of interesting our listeners out there, what were the facts of the case? What had happened and what did the court say?
Okay, in 2016,
yes,
Loveness Mudzuri and Ruimbo Mutsopodzi, through their lawyer Tendai Biti, they approached the court.
Yes,
seeking,
and which court was this?
It was the High Court.
Okay.
Seeking an order that was going to declare section... it was section 22 of the section 22 subsection 1 of the Marriages Act to be invalid and not in line with the constitution. The reason being, section 22 it allows for females to be married at the age of 16. Yes, and it is discriminatory, which is also unconstitutional in terms of section 56 of the constitution. It because
and do you also feel like that discrimination also in terms of the law is not in line with the whole agenda of affirmative action? Because September was all about celebrating the heroes of the women, and how exactly they are triumphing and taking positions of leadership during the COVID-19 era. So do you think that was also maybe bad for positive affirmation, because the government and legislation at any one point in time is supposed to be uplifting the girl child, and not suppressing her or giving harsh conditions that are discriminatory like what you're saying?
I actually agree, and those are my sentiments as well. Like, how was that even allowed to be law? But like I said, this was a law drafted in 1963. But the good part is, I'm glad the Constitutional Court declared section 22 invalid. And also they sought an order to pave way for the Customary Marriages Act, that's chapter 1107, to also have a provision that actually gives mention to the fact that children who are below the age of 18 cannot get into a valid marriage.
That's a discrepancy, and I really hope there are some lobbyists out there who are listening to legal matters, because the law, in as much as it's a vehicle of change, people still need to keep working on it and doing the work like what you're doing, Miss Makoni, to find the loopholes that are making it difficult to prosecute this issue of child marriages. So now, if there's an instance, say Miss Caroline Taponeswa, you know of a man who's who created a child marriage, and then that man is sentenced to prison. How long do you think that person should go to prison for? Maybe today you're now the judge, you're now the magistrate, you're giving your decision. What exactly would you say? How many years would you give someone like that in prison?
I think 25 years would be okay.
Miss Makoni, are people going to jail for 25 years and coming back? Is that excessive?
20 years, the usual. 25 years, I do agree. Because if we do that, I think we will set a bar and hopefully deter men and also women, because we cannot deny the fact that there are actually women who are also marrying boys who are below the age of 18.
Yes. Okay, that's an interesting thing that you've brought to light there. Miss Caroline, why would you think this issue of child marriages mostly affects the girl child? Maybe leaving the issue of discrimination to the side for the courts. Just from a perspective of an ordinary author, what exactly would you say about that? There are more child marriages with girls, which is why it's almost nearly girl child marriages than boys.
Well, I think it's just because our culture is the woman who gets married.
Okay.
It's not the man who gets to
and do you also think it's because the men are the problem, because they are waiting up until they become men to then marry children?
Yeah, I think it also,
which is really ironic.
Yeah, it's the men as well, because you can't be a maybe 40-year-old man and then marry a 13-year-old child.
All right.
It's your problem as well.
Exactly, yes. So I think there's also that need to conscientize men on really the detrimental effects they may have on a girl child if she joins in a child marriage, because development is now different with the way it was back in 1930 or in 1850 thereabout. Now there's the need for women as well to become competitive on an educational level.
Yes.
Now there's the need for them as well to have the opportunity to come to studios like what we're doing in here and have their views heard. Miss Makoni, I can see you're eager.
Yes, Tulani, I wanted to comment on the effects that child marriages actually have on the girl child, and not on the boy child.
Okay.
You see, women are vulnerable.
Okay.
Yes. What happens is a lot of girls that are married off at a tender age are subject to abuse.
Yes.
They're subject to exploitation.
Yes.
They're subject to disease. They are subject to giving birth to stillborns.
Yes.
They're subject to their uteruses rupturing and other complications that happen to young girls when they're giving birth. This is maybe what actually contributed to the demise of Memory Machaya.
And of course it's because their bodies may not be ready yet to carry the child, because in as much as science may say that you may be ready at such an age, the mere fact that bodies are failing is also because of what you're saying. They have not fully developed, they have not matured. And also another issue I'd just like to throw across to you, Miss Caroline. What do you think about polygamy as a key factor as well that is influencing this issue of child marriages? Because you may find that most people who are the accused person in Miss Makoni's line of work usually have a string of women. So polygamy as well is something that goes back to culture. So would you say on that cultural note that polygamy is an instigator or it promotes child marriages?
Well, yeah, I think it does promote, because
you
know, like there's this idea that men men, they are, I don't know,
they're masculine. Yes.
They want something different, they want something new. So let's say maybe the first wife is now 50. Obviously the second wife cannot be 50 again until we get to the fifth wife. That's why they end up like getting to the 18-year-olds.
Yes. And I also think it's something that religious leaders and cultural leaders as well need to take a stance in helping, because apparently in Kariba just last week they set up a whole campaign that is going to be prosecuting people and also rectifying that issue of child marriages within the region in and around Kariba. So I think that's also a good initiative, Miss Makoni, because chiefs as well as the local authority are taking on that initiative. So I think it's also not just an issue of lawyers going to court, but it's also an issue of society coming together to say, no, this is rampant. No, this is enough. What would you say, Ms. Makoni?
I do agree with what you said, Tulani. There is need for more policies and to engage the society to know about the effects of child marriages on children. And when these education campaigns are being held, it's important to engage and educate the males more, because they are perpetrating this. And also the families, especially parents, should know about the effects that child marriage has on their children, because if they are to be told about the Memory Machaya case, I'm sure no parent would want to lose their child. But unfortunately, when these things happen, I'm sure because we have observed that this happens mostly in poverty-stricken families.
Situations, yes.
They just want to make a quick buck. They want quick lobola and not to think of the long-term implications the marriage will actually have on the child. So I agree.
Yes, and I'm also really against that whole issue of this whole lobola culture being commercialized now. So it's actually now like people are trying to sell their children, but then it should not be like that on any front. So Miss Makoni, Miss Caroline, what exactly would you just say with regards to the sentiments that Miss Makoni has aired with regards to the whole implementation of stopping cultural polygamist child marriages?
Well, yes, it has to be stopped. It has to be stopped. But I think we apart from the law, it needs to be approached as also like in a psychological way.
Yes,
and understand them and sit down with them and then tell them that this is wrong.
Yes.
At some point we accepted this, but look at it now. Look at how it is affecting the child right now. The things are changing, the society is changing, the economy is changing.
Yes.
So we need to also adapt and move forward
with the times. Yes. Well, of course, there's also cultural erosion, but that's a story for another day.
Okay.
Miss Makoni, just before we round up the show, let's get into the law in action. What exactly makes someone guilty of the crime of child marriages, or what exactly do you consider? What facts, in essence, sum up the whole crime of child marriages? Because I understand when a crime is being committed, there are certain essential elements or certain things that have to be looked at in order for the court to determine whether there is a guilty conviction or there is no proof beyond reasonable doubt.
Okay, Tulani, like I had mentioned before, that there is no specific provision that deals with child marriages in our criminal law code and reform act. Usually we charge these male people with rape.
Okay.
Yes, those people will be charged with rape.
Okay.
And I believe when the marriages bill amendment is done, we will have a proper legislation where we will be able to properly hold males accountable, and females too. Males and females are accountable for the crime, because it specifically criminalizes child marriages.
Okay, you know what? You brought an interesting issue to light over there. The issue that you are now prosecuting this crime as rape. I was just listening to some current affairs debates that are going around, and the issue of rape became topical. So why exactly can't a female rape a male? Because that's something as well we need to consider, because this whole issue of child marriage is undoubtedly is tied, or it has a nexus to the issue of sexual intercourse or rape, things like that, which is why it's now being prosecuted along those lines. So what exactly would be your take with regards to that? Why can't women commit rape on men?
Well, women can actually commit rape on men, even in a lot of countries, including the United States.
Okay.
Women can commit rape on men.
Yes.
But in terms of our Zimbabwean law, we now call it aggravated indecent assault.
Okay.
The law says men cannot be raped.
Okay. Because of how the law operates.
Yes, this is because of how the law operates. Okay. But the punishment is the same.
Okay.
The sentence is the same.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. No, I understand. We'll really be looking forward to seeing you in the newspapers trying to change that, because if women are clamoring for equality on that level, then really the law as well should reflect that women can rape men. Okay, so just before we round up the show, Miss Caroline, what is your discourse, or what exactly would be your parting shot to our listeners today on legal matters with regards to this issue of child marriages? Because like we said, it's a series that's going to have episodes that are going to canvass the issue of child marriages. So our listeners should also look out for some interesting surprise guests we'll be having on the show to talk about this issue of child marriages. So the floor is yours.
Okay, firstly, child marriages should be stopped.
Okay.
And the law should actually take action.
Okay.
We should not have incidents whereby the case is just reported, but the person would be out there, continuing to live his life.
Yes, Miss Makoni, we want to see justice.
People should go
to prison.
People should actually go to prison.
Yes.
And then also, like I was saying earlier, that we also need to approach them in another way, which is not the legal way.
Okay.
And understand them, and then speak to them, and then show them the light that this is now the way forward.
Okay.
We are now done with this.
Okay. So yeah, we'll definitely be looking forward to initiatives like that, and Legal Matters will be partnering with people who are working with this issue of child marriages to actually bring the listeners on the ground and get to understand what goes on outside the studio. Miss Makoni, the floor is yours. What would be your parting shot?
Okay, sorry to take you back, Tolani.
No,
I feel like I didn't do much justice
okay.
on commenting on the law in action.
Okay.
The current law in action in Zimbabwe at the moment.
Yes.
Because of the interest of time, I'll just do a rundown. I'll just list the various laws that we have.
Okay.
At first, we have the Constitution, which
All
is the supreme law of the land.
Okay.
Which in section 78 talks about children below the age of 18 cannot be able to be in a marriage.
Okay. Yes.
Secondly, we have the Domestic Violence Act.
Okay.
We also have the Criminal Law and Codification Act that is there to protect children.
Yes.
Internationally, we have the CRC.
Okay. The CRC being
the Charter on Children's Rights.
Okay.
Yes, we also have it's actually the ICRC, the International Charter on Children's Rights.
Okay.
Zimbabwe did ratify it. We have the African Charter
on
the Rights and Welfare of the Child.
All right.
We have the Maputo Protocol.
Okay.
And we also have the CEDAW.
Okay.
Yes.
And by CEDAW, what do you mean?
The Convention on the Elimination of Discrimination Against Women.
Okay. And I'd just like to say, Ms. Makoni, before you finish saying goodbye, all this information is available on the internet. All you have to do is type the names of these laws and look them up on Google. You get the soft copy and also get to understand it, so that you as well can become legal wise on these aspects of the law. Miss Makoni, please say goodbye to the listeners before we round up the show.
Okay, thank you, Tulani. My parting words are: one day, child marriages will be a thing of the past.
Okay.
Slowly and surely, we are going there.
Okay.
The legal battle is still ongoing, and soon the laws will be aligned, and it will mark an end to child marriages.
Okay, powerful. Really, one day child marriages will end. So I am glad to say that the show was a success, and I feel like our listeners really got to understand the parameters of child marriages in Zimbabwe, because this was the foundation of the series we're going to be having of 2 episodes on this issue of child marriages. So the next time we talk about it, we'll get to canvas on the ground and actually get to understand how organizations are working with children that have been in child marriages, and also just helping them to recuperate and also continue their lives, considering the psychological issues as well that happen as a result of these child marriages. Ms. Makoni, thank you very much for coming to Legal Matters. Mr. Taponeswa, say goodbye to our guests before we round up the show.
Okay, thank you, Tulani.
Welcome.
So yeah, I think I'm in solidarity with Miss Makoni's statement.
Okay.
One day child marriages will come to an end.
Will come to an end.
Yes,
definitely. Well, thank you as well, Miss Taponeswa, for that. We are really looking forward to getting to hear comments from the books from our listeners, and also just how to get in touch with Miss Makoni and Mr. Taponeswa on our initiatives that they will be doing as a part of the campaign against child marriages. So thank you very much for listening. My name is Tulani. I am your host for Legal Matters, and make sure that you tune in next week, because we're going to have a really special show with a special guest, Mr. Maguchu, who is a labor law expert, as we'll be talking about labor law in the digital age. So enjoy the rest of your week and stay legal wise.